Hello, comrades. As many of you probably know, I'm a fan of the For Beginners book series. It's a very simplistically formatted and a very informative selection of comic books covering a variety of topics. Today, I'll be doing a review of the book Che for Beginners by Sergio Sinay. This particular book functions just, as a visual biography of Che Guevara, essentially a simplified retelling of Che's life from his time growing up in Argentina all the way to his tragic death in Bolivia. This little comic begins by telling us about Che's early life, growing up in Argentina with 4 siblings and suffering from asthma at a young age. According to this piece, Che Guevara was showing signs of being a natural leader as a young boy, being very courageous and, confident in others, his friends and his peers and all that kind of stuff. The teachings that Guevara actually received from his father about the importance of freedom are mentioned, showing an early sign of Che's revolutionary ideals and revolutionary spirit. Che for Beginners also gives what's essentially a very heavily abridged telling of the motorcycle diaries, briefly going into the travels around South America and Central America and whatnot, seeing all of the poverty and destitution forced upon the victims of imperialism. Of course, this wouldn't be a proper book about Che Guevara's life without mentioning his meeting Fidel Castro and his influence and, his actions in the Cuban Revolution. The victory over Batista is covered, Che and Fidel's arrival in Havana is covered. Some of the greatest moments of the Cuban Revolution are covered at least briefly in this book. At least when covering Che, this book does work to give, a very fair representation, even covering the mistakes made during his time as the Minister of Industry for Cuba. We learn of Che leaving Cuba to spread revolution elsewhere throughout South America, Central America, and Latin America, that whole region, working to develop a guerrilla movement in Brazil, Bolivia, and other such countries. The struggles of developing a guerrilla force with, military losses and lack of supplies as written by Che in his diaries is also addressed. And of course, it also does cover Che being captured and eventually executed in Bolivia. Now, I do have a few criticisms for this book. When they cover when Che got captured in Bolivia, I think it's kind of stupid and a little unfair that they include the quote wherein Che surrenders himself, but they don't include his most famous quote, "I know you're here to kill me. Shoot, coward. You're only going to kill a man." They don't include that, and I just find that a little weird. And while this probably was just an honest mistake, it very well could have been, when they covered when Che went to China and actually met Chairman Mao Zedong, for some reason the author claimed that Mao was practicing permanent revolution, and as we all know, that's just fucking insane, because Mao was in no way a follower of Trotsky or a Trotskyist in any sense, describing Trotsky himself as dishonest and, having trouble with, Japanese Trotskyists and Trotskyist spies and shit. Now, despite a small amount of inaccuracies and just a couple of complaints, this book does serve as a decent introduction to the life and the influence of Che Guevara, with engaging visuals and, a more simplified method of teaching. I would recommend giving this book a read. Just be ready to make sure that you and any other comrade who reads this don't believe any of the falsehoods in this book. I will leave a link to the book in the description of this video. I'm Jymee Casual. Thank you for watching.